Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's time to have a very honest conversation about the Philadelphia Eagles. The football team that I'm watching right now is something that I couldn't really foresee. I think this is a team that's really struggling right now, and today we're going to dive into some of those inconsistencies and dive into some of the things which have caused this team to be struggling like they are at this point in the season. Now, the Cardinals defeat the Eagles 35-31 after Philadelphia had a 21-6 lead at halftime. The Philadelphia Eagles have lost 4 out of the last 5 football games that they've played in. Jalen Hurts on the day, 18 of 23, 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception, which I'm going to mark off because it was a Hail Mary attempt at the end of the game. DeAndre Swift on the day, 13 carries, 61 yards. Sidney Brown is another guy who we can highlight on defense, had a 99-yard pick six. One of the players which I talked about coming out of that back in Illinois, guy that I was really high on. Now, Kyler Murray, going to the flip side of this thing. Kyler Murray, 25 of 31, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. The rushing attack was deadly for the Arizona Cardinals. We saw a team that can consistently run the football, that leaned on the offensive line, and really in the passing game, they also kept Kyler Murray upright. Now, the rushing attack for the day, 40 carries, 221 yards. James Conner on the day, one of his best career performances. Really good to see, and we know what the story is with James Conner, going from Pittsburgh now to Arizona, a lot of different things which he had to overcome, but seeing him play like he did in yesterday's football game, 26 carries, 128 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Arizona Cardinals dominated time of possession 40 minutes to the Philadelphia Eagles 20 minutes, which they possessed the football. Now I want to start this thing off when we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. I think offensively, this was a very good game. Now, we talked about adding motion into the offense, being more creative, calling plays which we can run and get explosive gains off of. I think we saw diversity within the offense. I think we saw getting back to the running game, leaning on DeAndre Swift a little bit. We saw Kenneth Gainwell get involved. Julio Jones had 2 touchdowns on the day. Good to see him doing that. And then you also go to it, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown, getting those guys involved. I think Jalen Hurts had a really good game. I'm not going to sit here and try to talk about what the offense couldn't do in a last ditch effort in this football game, because I think when you put up 31 points and you look at a lot of things that they did, now they only had 2 possessions in the second half. No, they actually only had 3 possessions in the second half outside of that last ditch effort where he threw the Hail Mary interception. So I'm paying attention to all of these things, and we go to defensively. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles have a big second half problem. In their last 5 games, they've been outscored in the second half 105 points to 51 points. Now, they've played the San Francisco 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys, the Seattle Seahawks, the New York Giants, and then this game against the Arizona Cardinals. That's their last 5. And in the second half, you're getting outscored 105 points to 51. We're looking at this second half right here. They got outscored 29 points to 10 points. A lot of unanswered points on the defensive side of the football. Now, the Cardinals scored on every single offensive drive in the second half. And what I really think is, there's 2 key guys that I think the Philadelphia Eagles are missing right now. That's one, Nakobe Dean, a guy who I talked about, 3rd-round pick out of Georgia, could have been a 1st-round pick, had the injury concerns around him. And this was a year where you move off of T.J. Edwards, Kaiser White goes to Arizona along with Jonathan Gannon. And now we say, can Nakobe Dean step up into this role and lead that linebacker core? We talked about this all offseason as a weakness for this team, and I think he would have helped this unit. We're seeing a lot of inconsistencies with this second level at the linebacker position. I don't think Shaquille Leonard is the same, and I'm a South Carolina guy. He went to Lakeview High School, went to South Carolina State. He's an all-pro linebacker, a lot of different things and a lot of accolades for Shaquille Leonard, but right now, today, I don't think he's that same linebacker that Philadelphia Eagles fans thought they were getting. And then I go a little further. I'm looking at the trade that was made at the trade deadline for Kevin Byard. It was a big time trade, and I like the aggressiveness for the Philadelphia Eagles to make that move at that point in time. But I think what we're seeing, hindsight is always 2020. I'm not saying it was a bad trade, but I think they were trying to cover up for some incompetence at some other positions in that back end, particularly at the safety position. But when we talk about this, I think they're really missing Darius Slay. All-pro corner, big-time player, Pro Bowl caliber corner. And we're seeing James Bradbury. Now I love Howie Roseman. He's made some exceptional moves. I like you go get DeAndre Swift. I like you get A.J. Brown in the NFL draft. I like a lot of things you did. And I'm not saying this was a bad move when you pay Darius Slay and James Bradbury, knowing what they are, referring to their age. Because we're looking at James Bradberry. His play is not what it was last season. I think you could argue. I think you could really argue that last season James Bradberry almost had a better season than Darius Slay. But this season, I don't even think it's comparable. So you miss Darius Slay. Now you're adding in Kelly Ringo. Now you're adding in Eli Ricks, adding in Avonte Maddox in the slot, where you also would have had some guys who now could play those positions, but they're not guarding the best receiver. They're not guarding the second best receiver. You could have had James, Darius Slay, but now Eli Ricks, Kelly Ringo, they're having to step up into those positions. And then with Avonte Maddox, your true slot guy, he's a very good player at the position, but he's even struggling, and we saw it in this football game. I think we started in the first half, Eli Ricks struggled a bit, had some lapses in coverage, also had a situation where he came up to make a run fit. Michael Carter shook him out of his boots. And then I'm looking in the second half. Now, Kelly Ringo, Michael Wilson, one-on-one in the red zone. What are we doing in that situation? Now, if we're going to either give him, you can't give him a four-way go. In the red zone on the 1 yard line, I'm not giving him a four-way go. I'm guarding outside leverage or I'm guarding inside leverage. But to sit there flat-footed, give an easy inside access slant to Michael Wilson, a very good receiver out of Stanford, that's way too easy for the defense. And then going over to Avonte Maddox, when they scored the last touchdown to go ahead, that's a situation where you look at that and say, now Greg Dortch. And this is no knock to Greg Dortch, but Greg Dortch is not the best receiver on the Arizona Cardinals. He is their returner. So to have him step into that role, that's huge for Arizona. But looking at that for Philadelphia, Avonte Maddox, we're in a situation where we are a starter. We've been that slot guy when we're healthy. Now, this is a guy who's been in and out of the lineups due to health, but it's not due to play. A very good player in Avonte Maddox. And then to have that situation where it's an out route, we're playing man coverage, we got safeties over the top, and we just lose on the route. So I think that was a lot of what I saw in this football game. Kyler Murray had an exceptional game. I think they ran the ball exceptionally well for Philadelphia, not being able to stop the run. And I go back to the defensive line. I think the defensive line was negated in this one. When you play an athletic quarterback who has pocket presence, who can create for himself within the pocket, he doesn't have to play within structure all of the time. And then you get over to the running game, Michael Carter, James Conner, the way they were able to run the football like they wanted to, leaning on that consistently. You couldn't even have your offense with Jalen Hurts and the crew on the field consistently because you actually gave up a drive, 10 plays, 75 yards, 6 minutes and 18 seconds, 9 plays, 77 yards, 5 minutes and 3 seconds, 8 plays, 77 yards, 4 minutes and 29 seconds. So that's keeping the offense off of the football field. But when I take a step back and really assess what is going on with the Philadelphia Eagles, I think it starts really in this game with the inability to stop the run. I'm looking at the second level. I'm looking at the third level where our safeties are trying to come up. We're not being decisive. We're not being really sound within our run fits. And then I'm looking at the second level, Shaquille Leonard struggling, Nicholas Morrow struggling, defensive line being negated because an offensive line is playing above what they actually are. Once they get into a rhythm, now they're playing with more physicality. Now James Conner can run behind his pass. Now Michael Carter can get into space. So that was a lot of what they did on the day. And then in the secondary, I think this is what we've been talking about. Now the difference is the Philadelphia Eagles have been a good run defense team for the most part of the season outside of looking at some of these other games. But I think to have that exacerbated by actually what you can't do in the pass defense, it's just a lot of things going on. Now I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. For the flip side, we could look at this thing for Arizona. I think that I don't want to take it too far, but I think they do have a foundation with Jonathan Gannon. He actually gave these guys a lot more to play for. We knew that Jonathan Gannon was not necessarily revered by the city of Philadelphia. What they thought about him as the defensive coordinator last year, even in the Super Bowl loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, a lot of people were dissatisfied with Jonathan Gannon, his bend but don't break defensive approach. So now he had that approach in this game, and then you're looking at it, a lot of guys were motivated. They wanted to play for their coach. So I think hats off to the Arizona Cardinals. And when we look at the 2024 NFL draft, they're going to have one of those high picks. So it just gives them the opportunity to go out there, hunt some draft capital, continue to rebuild this team. I like what they have at the receiving core. Now they have the opportunity, if everything falls in line, to potentially get a guy like Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm looking at what they have now. They have Dortch. He's their returner, kind of their gadget guy. They got Rondale Moore, Michael Wilson, Hollywood Brown when he returns healthy. So a lot of things working for this football team. Defensively, I think that's where you want to add a lot of your pieces, but Budda Baker was all over the football field in this game. Let me know down below, What do you think about the Philadelphia Eagles? Did I touch on all of the problems? Are there some problems that I touched on which you think aren't necessarily problems, things that can get fixed as we head into the NFL playoffs? Are there problems that I didn't touch on that you may see within this football team? Eagles fans, I'm not here to bash on the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I think if they get into the playoffs and all these things change, because Nick Sirianni talks about how we have to fix these issues and how we have to fix them fast. Hindsight is always 2020, but as we sit here right now today, these are the problems that have to be addressed. These are the problems that sit there currently within this football team. So I want to know what you guys think down below. I'm open to all conversation. I'm open to all comments. I want to hear this. I want to talk about this one. That's going to do it for today's show. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And now, yeah.